Hello and welcome to Face to Face on City TV. My name is Omar Sandamad. My guest today is a member of Parliament, a member of the Appointments Committee, also a private legal practitioner. When I come back, I'll introduce him. My guest has been in the news because he wanted school fees removed or slashed or absorbed by the government. That has failed, though, in the House of Parliament. Honorable Mahama Ayariga, you're welcome to Face to Face.
Thank you, Umaru.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
How is the new House, new Parliament shaping up?
Well, this new Parliament, as you can see, has an interesting composition. For the first time, we have what we call a hung Parliament, where the two major political parties have an equal number and strength. One, luckily, has gotten an independent to join them. That swings the pendulum in their favor, but that's just one. Because of this new composition, in terms of the numbers, I think that most Ghanaians feel many possibilities exist. And that was accentuated by what happened when we were to elect a speaker. The fact that the minority side today, which is the NDC side, was able to push through our candidate to win against the candidate of the New Patriotic Party, gives hope to people that if we could pull through one of the most important offices, if not the most important office in Parliament, in a vote, it gives hope that then the opposition may be able, through the life of this Parliament, to be getting a lot of issues passed, even against the will of the New Patriotic Party. So that gives a lot of hope to people that this Parliament won't be one in which it is just the domination of the NPP that we will see. Also, the NDC may be able to get things to go through. But then also, it gives a lot of hope that the NDC will be able to stop a lot of things that the NPP might want to do, which the NDC feel is wrong, or people generally feel is inappropriate or doesn't serve the best public interest. So this composition of the Parliament gives a lot of hope, but at the same time it gives some concern. People fear that the Parliament could easily be carried away by extreme partisanship, in which case the NDC could be influenced into becoming an obstructionist organization in the Parliament, where they will just make things impossible for government, and in the process, governance will be obstructed in many different ways, hopefully to slow down the achievement of the government and make business impossible. So there's that fear that people express based on what they see of the new Parliament. So this is the background, this is the situation, this is the concern. But, this is the beginning. Let's see how it goes.
What are the disadvantages of this current Parliament that we have?
Disadvantages? I so far will say I don't think there's any disadvantage.
In that there's a possibility of Parliament holding the executive to ransom. It is the first time we are seeing a house that is not really in the control of the government. The speaker is not from the governing party. The speaker ought to bless a lot of plans by the government for it to be executed successfully on the floor. It's going to be pretty difficult for this government, wouldn't it?
I'm not sure about it being difficult for this government if this government sets out to do the right thing. Don't forget that the NDC is a public political organization that is seeking to win public confidence, public sympathy, and public support. As a political party, you can't win an election on the strength of your base alone. Your base can carry you to an extent. You need, beyond your base, to win an election. And the NDC wants to win an election. So the NDC cannot afford to be carried away by its base and say, let's obstruct the NPP government. The NDC has to make sure that in holding the government accountable, it is seen, it is manifest to the entirety of the population of Ghana that we are seeking to have the right thing done. That accountability that is demanded of a political party by the public, in order that your chances of doing well in the future will be brighter, will require that we don't make a mistake of being seen by the middle class, by the floating voters, as just an obstructionist group. We must be seen by the floating voters and the middle class as people who are standing up to government to ensure that the right thing is done. There's fairness, there's accountability, and it is only the best ideas that will pass through Parliament in the governance of the country.
But you must be seen by your party base as doing what the party base expects you to do. That is the foundation of your election into Parliament. Forget the swing people, forget the middle class and all of those people. You need the base as a first solid ground. If the base says this is what we want you to do, you should do it, shouldn't you? Because it's the base that...
Let's not underrate the intelligence of the base. Very often, I read the base, and on many of the issues that the base will urge the NDC parliamentarians to act, when you really scrutinize it, you will see that they have a case. They have a case. Except, of course, you may disagree with the conclusions of the base, but there's a basis for they demanding that of you. We're about to have the vetting of ministerial nominees. You go through NDC platforms. They prepare a list and say, these ones, don't approve them. Honestly speaking, even though the blanket statement don't approve them, I may disagree with some of it, okay? But there's a basis for they saying that don't approve this person. So what they are requesting then is that hold them accountable for their previous conduct. And very often, even though you will hear the NDC base demanding that you hold them accountable, if you just walked in the streets and asked people who are not floating voters, who are not NDC members, and they are just ordinary floating voters, about those same issues, you will find out that they are also demanding accountability one way or the other, except that they don't take a position that don't approve them. They will say, hold them accountable for their conduct. Okay? The NDC members say, don't approve them. But then when you really probe, you find out that they are all about holding them accountable for their conduct.
If you do not listen to the base and you approve them, you would have incurred the wrath of the base. That is huge, a problem for you, isn't it?
There are two things that they are saying. Hold them accountable, don't approve them. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, you can't just go to the appointments committee and say, whatever you say, we won't approve you. It doesn't make sense. You can't do that. If you do that, I don't think that as a political group, you will be doing the right thing. Don't approve them if you hold them accountable and they cannot provide a satisfactory explanation for their conduct. So I think that if the NDC members sitting and watching see that as a committee, we have asked every critical question that has to be asked, that we have not shelved any issue, that we have compelled the production of every document that explains a conduct. And to any ordinary fair-minded person, it is obvious that that person has provided a satisfactory answer. Okay? if you stepped out and asked the NDC members again, what do you think about this person? Most likely, many will change their position on that person.
Is this to mean then that no nominee of the president is going to be rejected by the appointments committee?
I will not say that. I will say that every nominee of the president will be subjected to the most stringent of scrutinies.
But they will be made to go through regardless?
No, depending on your responses. So your ability to scale through will depend on whether you've provided satisfactory
explanation. Do you decide on nominees before you sit, during sittings, or after the sitting? How does the appointments committee work?
There are two things. There are two sides of the committee. There's the NDC side, there's the MPP side. The NDC side will sit before we sit with the MPP side. And then we sit with the MPP side before we sit as an appointments committee.
And at these sittings, what do you look out for? You plan how you're going to ask your questions, or you're going to plan who you're going to set free, and so on. And I'm going to come to you when you were...
as the NDC side, we sit to ask ourselves, what is our strategy on everybody? What's our strategy on everybody?
So you have a blank strategy on people?
Yeah, we have a strategy on everybody. Everybody who is appearing before us, we have a strategy on you. I mean, key issue is if the person is a sitting minister or just ended his term as a minister, the strategy will be hold him accountable for his stewardship when he was a minister. If he's a new person, what can you find on him? And people are assigned tasks to look into in relation to that. We don't come unprepared. I mean, the strategy is you have to sit and prepare for that person. We have our own experts. We call them in. Can you come and brief us on education, on health, on trade and industry, on finance?
And this is just one side of the...
Just us as NDC members.
Okay.
So it takes days of preparation.
So then you prepare your questions, and you know who is going to ask what questions.
And then we assign people, you ask that question, you ask this other question, you ask that question.
You have what? 11 or
yes.
11 members? 13 members.
30 members.
So yes. In total you have 26.
Yes.
Your side has 13.
13, they have 13.
But you still have a ranking member.
Yes.
You don't have a chairman.
Yes.
Your ranking member is your leader.
Our leader is our ranking member, and then the deputy speaker is the chairman.
Okay, so you don't, even though you have ranking member, you have
finish on how we prepare.
Okay, please continue.
So we do that. Now, when we come to the broader meeting of the appointments committee before sitting, very often the chairman will announce to us petitions that have come before him.
Yes, prior to the public hearing.
Prior to the public hearing. That's what's supposed to happen.
Okay.
Petitions that have come before him. And then if we also have petitions that have come to us, we'll also bring it to the table that these other petitions have also come to us. And we'll decide how to deal with those petitions. We've studied the petitions. If the petitions are matters that we think are matters that we should ask the petitioner to respond to, you can decide that the petitioner should respond to before the sitting.
So you do prima facie analysis before
you
even
go on. I mean, people don't just bring you petitions and then you go on air on it.
Okay.
Because if you go on air on a petition that is clearly wrong, you would have unfairly damaged the reputation of a nominee based on a baseless petition.
Okay.
So, a petition comes, it's only fair for you to refer the petition to the petitioner. So, to the nominee. That, can you respond to this?
You don't keep it and surprise them during the vetting? Because the element of surprise is very crucial.
Well, element of surprise is there, but you wouldn't go far with element of surprise. The reason is that if you bring up an issue, then you may invite a situation where the chairman tends to become protective because you just brought it up. Nobody knows about it. The person comes up. Unless the person is presented with questions. So you said you went to Harvard. You brought your CV which says Harvard. Now somebody goes to do research that shows that you have not been to Harvard, and then he petitions a member of the committee. That member can keep that. Then when you come and then we have your CV, we ask you, your CV shows that you went to Harvard. Is that so? Yeah, which year? So, okay, what course? Okay. well, I have this report that says that you didn't go to Harvard. I mean, that can happen, okay? But let's say somebody says, you defrauded him, okay? In your CV, there's nothing about defrauding anybody and etc. So, you may be asked, have you ever had a business dealing with Mr. X? So, yes, I've had business dealing with him. Okay, Mr. X says that you defrauded him. He can deny. Okay, you have a court record showing that he has been convicted for defrauding Mr. X. If you don't have, so really, that kind of ambushing doesn't help you.
So you asked this before?
No. That can happen during the sitting. Okay. There's some categories of ambushing that is permitted. Like I said in your CV, you say, because you have provided information that you have this, and then we also have something that shows that you don't have. So we may not share it with you until
you also write to the CID and BNI and all those. Everything. If they give you reports, do you serve it on the nominee, or how do you treat such reports?
But you see, normally, because in the past and even now, the chairperson who will receive official correspondence on nominees will normally be in the government party. So if there are communications that come, the likelihood that the chairman will draw the attention of the nominee to get the nominee side of the story is very high. So that when the chairman comes to the committee, he will say, okay, look, there's this petition that came, the person alleged X, Y, Z. I wrote to CID, I wrote to this, I wrote to that. This response, the response confirms or it, counters whatever the person has said. Things like that. Some preliminary investigation will normally take place for us to agree that, yes, this is a matter that we will bring up. Sometimes we can agree that, look, there's a petition, it's been published in the newspapers, the public is aware of it. So whether or not we've done our investigation and the person is exonerated or not, we still have to also raise it there. Otherwise, people accuse us of shelving, petitions. Okay. So since the person has gone public on his petition, let's still ask the nominee in public and let the nominee give the public what he has given us, so that if subsequently we clear the person, it won't look like we are covering up things.
So this is what you call conclave?
Yes, we do that.
But you don't agree that for nominee A, we are not going to accept. So let's.
That happens after.
After you finish with the public vetting.
With the public vetting of the nominee. So when we finish, every day when we finish with the nominees, they leave. When everybody has left, around 5 p.m., 6 p.m. mostly, or as late as we have finished.
Unless you have a Jakun who lasted up to 10 p.m.
Yeah, whatever the time, we will sit there and then we'll take a decision on the nominees for the day, each of them for the day. And if
by voice vote, by secret vote, or just by consensus of a sort?
Most of the time, it is by consensus. Where there's a disagreement, the disagreement is always along party lines. Okay. So we disagree on this person. So the daily meetings after vetting to decide on the nominee happens, and that is when we actually take a decision on the report. See, people think that it is the appointments committee that approves. The appointment committee recommends to plenary. So the appointment committee can recommend by consensus that X should be approved by the House. The House still reserves the right to reject Mr. X, even though its committee has recommended by consensus. The House can still, even after a committee has, but it's never really happened. I mean, I don't remember it happening, where the committee recommends by consensus and then the House rejects. No. At least the House has some respect for the committee. But technically, the House can still reject. Just that it will be difficult for you that both sides will agree by consensus in the committee meeting, and then it will be captured in the report. It will come to the House unless you have something fundamental that the committee did not have access to, that you bring it to the House. And if that escaped the attention of the committee, and it's so fundamental, you may be able to convince the rest of the House that, well, the committee did its best, but it did a shoddy job, for which reason the person should be rejected.
If at committee level you don't get consensus, you have to vote, and you vote and the nominee is rejected, can that nominee be represented by the president? What does the law say?
The law doesn't say that a person who is rejected by the House cannot be presented again by the president. The reason is that it's a political organization. It's not strictly speaking a law court, okay? It's a political organization. And people can be rejected for so many reasons. You can be rejected because in the House you haven't been able to garner enough people to support your nomination. Not because you are not capable of doing the job.
So you can go and rework that.
You can go and rework that. The president can go back, get back to the drawing paper, and then come back and then lobby the House, and then they will.
But if at committee level you decide that the person should not go through, that's a report you send to the plenary, and the plenary will decide otherwise or yes.
If at the committee we disagree, and so we decide that we are going to send a report that says there is no consensus on the candidate, and very often, if there has to be a vote, and the vote can say either approve or, reject. Mm-hmm. So 10 can say yes, 20 can say no, 20 can say no, 10 can say yes. So when that happens, there's no consensus on you. And so you have to go back to plenary, and you have to be sent to plenary, and then there will be a debate, and then there will be a vote on you.
This is Face to Face on City TV. My guest is Mahama Ayariga. It's exactly 4 years since he made an allegation of bribery against a nominee who appeared before a committee that he's serving on. I'll ask him if that has started already, and if he comes this time around, will he go to town like he did the last time, or he would play ball? Stay with us. You're welcome back to Face on City TV. Mahama Ayariga is my guest. He's Boku Central MP. Do you regret that statement you made about the bribery allegation against a nominee who appeared before your committee some 4 years ago?
I was made to apologize.
In the well. And you said, if you want me to apologize, I apologize. You never apologize, really.
I was made to apologize.
If you say I should apologize, I apologize.
I was made to apologize by the speaker because I could not prove before the Privileges Committee, because...
it wasn't privileges, it was a special committee chaired by Jogati.
Jogati, okay, yes, it was a special committee, yes, it wasn't a privileges.
So I think 5-member committee.
Yes. Mm. So, because I couldn't prove, and where there is proof, evidence, I was asked to apologize, and I apologized, and I believe that settled the matter.
But are you still convinced that what you did at the time was right?
Let's just say that I was made to apologize, and I apologized, and then
so it means
that matter ended.
Many people think that apology was not honest.
I don't know how they assess honest and dishonest apologies. Because if you say it wasn't honest, you're accusing of dishonesty.
Given another opportunity, or if you happen to come up with or hear of such an allegation, or even see one in the coming days relating to your work again, would you go to town, or you would now discuss your leadership and say, hey, this is what I found. The last time I complained publicly, I was hounded and told to apologize in the well. Which approach will you use this time if you find any such thing?
Well, I think that nothing like that will happen. That's what I believe.
But if it happens?
It won't happen. I have confidence in my colleagues that nobody will go collecting anything from anybody. I also feel that by what happened then, I have acquired a reputation of disclosing when people approach us improperly. So yes, people will approach us, people will come to us by way of lobbying and etc. But I believe that they will be careful making offers because they won't know if I have changed or not.
So they're always careful. People will be suspicious.
Everybody
have you changed?
In this house has been careful dealing with me. So
have you changed?
I would say that everybody has been careful dealing with me. People will...
Have you changed?
Will you
collect money?
What I would say is that I will make sure that if I'm taking anything from you, I will have the evidence.
If someone offers you bribe now, would you accept it?
I can't accept bribe. It's an offense.
If someone gives you money to, look the other way for a nominee to go through, will you do that?
It's an offense. It's an offense to collect bribe.
Have you been starved over the past 4 years because of this singular action of yours?
To say starved is to express interest in collecting things from people. I mean, you have to live on your legitimate income.
I think, was there some deliberateness about not putting you in some special committees or travel itinerary? There's little things that MPs make money from because of this decision of yours. Maybe have you been starved of funds either in your pocket or in your constituency? Anything?
Well, I mean, I will say that things like that don't come without repercussions from people in government. I have an interesting story, except that I will not. If I say it, the person who told me would be fished out.
Please say it.
But I mean, it won't be fair to that person. But I recall at a meeting when, people were sharing some things, and then somebody in the meeting said, "Oh, Boku Central," and then somebody in the meeting said, "Hey, take out Boku Central out of it. Take out Boku. That boy is too known."
Yes, you're going to shout. It's one thing you're going to shout. What's your relation with?
And the person came out and said, "Hey, I was trying to fight for something for you, for your constituency, and the way they were hostile in the meeting." If I mention the item, those who are in the meeting will know because, So, but I believe that, nothing comes without repercussions. And so, one way or the other, I may have suffered some punishment for what I did then. It doesn't mean that I won't do the right thing if I see it.
The nominee.
I mean, the reason why I do so is I'm one of those who got very close to the late president, Professor John Evans Atamels. And the training he gave some of us, his honesty, his commitment to the right thing, and principle and fairness, things that some of us picked up being with him. And so, if you observe, I don't fear to say it as it is, even if it is against the entire NDC establishment. Okay? As it is, I'll tell you. I also don't fear to say it as it is if it's against the entire government. And in my relationship with people, if it is A, I tell you it is A. If it's B, I tell you it is B. And so, yes, I will suffer punishment for it, but it won't change my disposition.
The nominee at the time was going to be Minister for Energy, Boachie Jakun. What's your relationship with him now? Really?
I mean, throughout his tenure as minister, then I never dealt with him. The rural electrification in my constituency
never happened.
Never happened, but I don't believe it is because of him.
It's not related.
I don't think it's because of him,
because
I don't think he directly handles the schedule of our people in constituency. I actually had to personally look for money to do most of the rural electrification in my constituency.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you go to the constituency and ask them, they'll tell you all the villages. I mean, every month I had a schedule where we bought poles, we bought, cables, conductors. I paid contractors, and even as we speak, there are still contractors on the ground working, and then I pay. I just didn't approach him when he was in office, because and he, of course, I mean, it's not in his place to approach me. I could have asked a question in Parliament to compel him to come and answer, but I didn't think that I wanted to waste my time doing that. I just tried to find a way of getting the people their electricity. But I don't think he went out to be vindictive towards me or anything of that sort. I never approached him. And he never approached me for anything because I was not on his committee, energy committee, and beyond the appointments committee, we never had reason to deal with each other until he left office. And his younger brother, the elder brother, was the chairman of the environment committee, and I was a member of the environment committee, the late member of parliament. And we're friends. We're very good friends. We traveled together a couple of times, and you should see us together. I mean, we're very nice towards each other. But I never dealt with his brother.
We've discussed the base of the party. The base of the party is represented at the top by the executives. Has NDC, the executive of NDC at the national level, has it brought a list to NDC MPs saying that we want you to approve nominee ABCD and reject nominee ABCD?
I'm not aware.
Do you think they will do that?
They've never done that.
It's never happened before.
It's never happened before when the party has come to us and said reject A or B or C.
But they will do that now. We are hearing that they will do that now.
Well, wait till they try. I want to assure you that I'm on the ticket of the party. Party discipline requires that you listen to party. If you recall, when the current second deputy speaker of parliament was asked by the speaker to withdraw from parliament on the grounds that he had crossed carpet or that he had resigned from his party, and since he came to parliament on the ticket of his party, and he had gone to file his nominations as an independent, then he constitutionally was supposed to leave Parliament. If you recall, you hosted me. I was the only person who really came out and challenged the speaker and said it was wrong. And I said it was wrong because I take a position that parliamentarians should not become slaves of parties. So that the party can direct you to do the good, the bad, the ugly,
and if you have
no choice. And if you don't agree, the following month the party says you are no longer a member of the party, and then on the basis of that, they will say, oh, since you don't have a party, you came and then the party has sacked you, you lose your seat. If you recall, I took a very strong exception to that.
So you're saying now that
so I'm saying that I take a position that having been sponsored on the ticket of a party to come to parliament, the party can ask of me that I do the right thing. But the party cannot ask of me that I do the wrong thing. What is the wrong thing? The party, in my opinion, cannot bring me a list and say, disqualify A, B, C, D. But the party can give me reasons why A, B, C, D should be disqualified. And if I become convinced that A, B, C, D should also be disqualified,
you will do that.
I will vote disqualifying them. But if I'm not personally convinced, and you just ask me to disqualify, you bring a list, predetermined list, all these people must go. I mean, you have to convince me. You have to convince me. I'm there on your ticket, but you have to convince me why I should just disqualify or vote against X, Y, Z.
But the difficulty for you is that you cannot be a lone ranger in the chamber. The last time you raised an issue was as recently a few weeks ago. You wanted school fees for tertiary students withdrawn or absorbed by the government. You made the point so much, you were given the opportunity, you argue your way out, but when you got to the votes, your party members didn't side with you, so you lost.
That's not true. All NDC members in the chamber that they voted for it. There was a mistake. If you go and take the video clip of proceedings that late afternoon, you will see that the NDC side had only a third of its members in the chamber, because the speaker had directed that because of COVID, the two sides must divide their membership into 3, and at every sitting only a third should come. So Honorable Muntaka, our whip, rolled out the program. The other side refused to roll out the program. Okay? Now, the second thing that happened was that when the motion was initially introduced, the NPP side said we should amend the motion so that it will be a consensus motion, which meant they will support it. So Haruna pressed, the speaker pressed, then I accepted the amendment. So to the best of the knowledge of my colleagues on our side, that day, the NPP side was not going to oppose the motion. So they sat in their offices because a third of them were asked to stay in the office and watch And if there was going to be a vote, then they will be asked to come and participate. So go and take the video clip. You will see that that was what happened. So we had only a third of our side in the chamber. To the extent that when the MPP that day surprised our side by opposing what they themselves initially described as a consensual motion, the speaker drew attention to the fact that the NDC side was not fully represented in the chamber. And therefore, he is considering whether we should take the decision, the vote later. If you recall, somehow that point was lost to leadership. That the speaker was drawing attention to the fact that if the vote is taken now, your side will lose because you don't have the numbers. You know? And so because we didn't object to the voice votes, the speaker put the vote. And because we're only a third, we voted for it. But because almost all of them were in, clearly from the voice vote, you could hear that they had won. Mm-hmm. But all NDC members supported.
For a party that came to
They supported the motion. They debated in support of the motion. They voted for the motion. And it was a disappointment because, and I'm one of those who will admit, responsibility of my side on this issue, because the very event of 7th January, gave people hope.
6 and 7 January.
6 and 7 January, the night of 6 and then the morning of 7, gave people a lot of hope that our side has the capacity to get good things through
and you failed
the
them.
parliament. And we failed them that day. I mean, they felt that for a matter that affected the lives of 500,000 university students, tertiary education students, and their families, that's 500,000 families, they felt that we should have put up the kind of fight that they saw us put up in order to get an office, a speakership.
You didn't take it seriously.
And so I get people calling me. And one of my colleagues, I'm told, was summoned by his constituency executives to explain why they didn't put up a fight in that chamber to make sure that university students enjoyed, at least some few waivers because of the COVID. That would have put the NDC, and I believe the NPP, because if it was a consensual motion, it would have put Parliament in a good light. So, admittedly, we could have fought better. Is that okay? If we hadn't taken our colleagues on the other side's word that they were going to support, they were not going to oppose it, and they just wanted us to amend it in a way that they were comfortable with, and etc. But you see, what that has done is to also create a problem of trust going forward. Can we ever trust the MPP if on any issue they give us their word? And I think that, for me, no. Because I remember the speaker adjourned sittings for 3 times just so that he will get me to amend the motion to capture what the NPP side felt wanted captured. Only for them the day of the debate to come and then,
So they exhibited bad faith.
Pardon? Bad faith. Absolute bad faith.
And moving forward, what do you do about that?
Moving forward, well, I will not give them my word on anything. And whatever they say, I'll take with a pinch of salt until it happens.
For a house that people are hoping you'll be having consensus, that will be a problem.
There will be no consensus on any matter. Trust me.
You don't believe so?
I don't believe so. They will have to change their behavior and build that trust. Because the first time we've experienced it, on a matter that wasn't about me as a person, on a matter that was about students, and all of us have students in our constituencies, and all of us appreciate the plight of the students and the plight of parents, and we appreciate the COVID situation that we find ourselves. And on a matter like that, you give me a word and I can't even trust you. On what other matter can I trust you? So clearly, going forward, it will be difficult for the MPP to tell me something in the chamber, and then I will take that. I say, okay, you said it's okay, we'll see. If it gets to that point, you really behave accordingly, fine. But if you don't behave accordingly, me too, I have my strategy.
Would that affect the vetting?
Oh, the vetting, trust me, the NPP would dare not come to me and ask that we should have a consensus on anybody, even before we vet the person. They cannot. We will vet the person.
Even if your leaders, that's the NDC leaders, tell you that, listen to what the MP people are saying.
They can't. The NDC leaders can't say I should listen to what the MP people are saying. They can't. Just as I also believe that they can't come to me with a blanket list and say disapprove.
When I say NDC leader, I mean the minority leadership.
Oh, the minority leadership. Well, I mean, like I said, there are some of our colleagues on the committee who will only agree to approve anybody if they are satisfied that the person has performed creditably and has made a case for being approved. The reason is that, remember that the vetting is not in camera. The vetting is carried live on television. And so people are going to be watching and assessing us. And if we are just being vindictive, and I don't want vindictiveness to be the character of the NDC.
It will be obvious. Everybody will see.
Exactly, everybody will see. If we are just being unfair, I don't want unfairness to be the character of the NDC. If we are just engaged in political vendetta, I don't believe that no matter what the NPP has been doing to us, that we in the NDC should be seen equalizing and also presenting ourselves to the rest of the world as people just pursuing political vendetta.
You want to behave like your master at Tamils.
Well, people haven't, spared us since those days when I had to defend him when he said we should be a father for all, we should be fair to all manner of
but that's
persons. But that's something I still believe in strongly, and then to his memory, I will continue to fight to uphold that standard.
This is Face to Face on CCTV. Mahama Ayariga is my guest. We'll be back with more. Don't worry. You're welcome back to Face on CCTV. My name is Umaru Sandamado. My guest is Mahama Ayariga, is MP for Boko Central. You are in Supreme Court litigating. You have not said you won the elections. I mean, at least you are not saying that in the court, even though outside you had said something close to that. It's becoming very challenging, a very difficult case for you to prosecute in there. Your whole case seems to be hinged on whether or not you should be allowed to cross-examine Jean Mensah. You are a lawyer. I'm sure you've been following proceedings.
Yeah, I think that the ideal situation in an election petition, is to go through the records of the election and to examine it and see whether the results as declared is accurate. Okay? I think basically what the NDC has been trying to say in simple terms is that you can achieve it in different ways. You can achieve it by doing what the NPP did, which was to compile, thousands of pink sheets and then say, we've examined all these pink sheets, and if we take out the pink sheets that we think should not be accepted, if you total the rest, the candidates don't get up to 50% plus one, okay? The NDC approach has been to try to say two things. One, that by the very declaration of the Electoral Commission chairperson herself, if you just use simple mathematical calculations of what she declared, that then no candidate got 50% plus one, depending on the base. Now, she said she came back and corrected the base and etc. The second thing that the NDC, in my opinion, is trying to do is to put out evidence of vote pardon and say that we have evidence of vote pardon. So given the evidence of vote pardon, can you order an audit of the rest of it to see if there are no further cases of vote pardon that, if we compiled, would actually show that no candidate got 50% plus one. You can see resistance on the part of the first and second respondent that we will not give you any other thing to look at. You, by law, were supposed to have copies of every record that we have. And by virtue of that, if you have an issue, produce your copies of it. I think basically that is their...
Yeah, and that's very easy.
That is their
yeah, that's
position.
very easy. So bring out your pink sheet and calculate and tell us that.
Yeah, but the response people have is basic. That why did we pass the Right to Information Act?
Yeah, but if
we passed the Right to Information Act so that if even a document that is ordinarily available to you as a citizen, you decide that you want another copy of the public record, that record should be available to you. So the question then is, what is the Electoral Commission afraid of in resisting the production of any document that is public record?
There are critics who say NDC lost the elections and just want to put up a public show by cross-examining the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. So you just satisfy your supporters that there we have the woman who stole the election from us, even though you have no proof that she stole the election. You haven't presented.
How can cross-examination show that she stole elections if she didn't steal elections? Cross-examination is to help you to get to the truth of a matter. Mm-hmm. So you can cross-examine her for 1 year. If the facts are ABC, it will remain ABC, whichever way you carry out the cross-examination. If there's no truth to what you're saying, a cross-examination cannot create new facts. Okay? So what is she afraid of in a cross-examination, given that cross-examination cannot create new facts?
If you're thrown out by the Supreme Court, we saw how Nana Akufo-Addo accepted it. Is the NDC going to accept it in a similar fashion, or you're going to ask for review?
I am not the petitioner. It is only the petitioner who will tell us how he will react if the Supreme Court should throw him out of the court, or his petition out of court. So let's wait for that time and then let the petitioner decide how he will react to the Supreme Court decision.
We will wait. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.
That's Honorable Mahama Ayariga. He is NDC MP for Bawku Central, a member of the Appointments Committee of Parliament. He was my guest on Face to Face. My name is Umaru Sandamado. Thank you for watching City TV. Stay with us. It's your world.